So in order apparently to be a licensed psychologist, you have to be fully insane in Canada. You have to actually parrot insanity back to people to be a licensed psychologist in Canada. Honestly, like, Jordan is going to make their lives so miserable.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch.
It'll be quite fun to watch Jordan actually. Like, I would love to sit in the room watching Jordan take social media re-education training.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it certainly does feel like as each day goes by, the consequences for going against leftist ways of thinking, leftist opinions, because how dare somebody have a different opinion, right? It's the worst thing to do right now, but it certainly gets worse and more intense. We see it all the time on social media. It's a daily thing for a lot of people, and Jordan Peterson has become a big talking point within this conversation because, as I'm sure many of you are aware, the court ruling that has just come out of Ontario, Canada, where they have just ruled against him and will be upholding his social media training. Also, his psychology license could be in the firing line. So essentially, Jordan Peterson is now going to be forced to re-educate himself on his controversial opinions that he posts online. What is going on? And when I instantly hear of this, I don't know how you guys feel, but it just reminds me of George Orwell 1984, where people are sent for re-education. They magically appear and they're all soulless. They say yes sir, no sir, and just repeat what the party wants them to repeat, obviously without the physical burden in this world that we live in. But it's starting to seem like George Orwell 1984 was more of a prediction than a story. I'll tell you now, I've got a lot of respect for Jordan Peterson. I find myself, as I get older, I'm becoming more and more of a fan. I'm getting towards the end of his book, 12 Rules for Life. Amazing book. I tune into a lot of his podcasts, his interviews, and I really do find when you watch Jordan Peterson, every single time you learn something new, and that's a great thing, right? I'm not too much of a fan of the crying, but I hear the argument of, well, he's just so passionate about what he speaks about. There's a lot of passion there, and to be passionate about something positive today is a dying trend, let's be honest. But let's get into this article discussing the court ruling coming out of Ontario, Canada. Ontario court rules against Jordan Peterson, upholds social media training order. An Ontario court ruled against psychologist and media personality Jordan Peterson on Wednesday and upheld a regulatory body's order that he will take social media training in the wake of complaints about his controversial online posts and statements. Last November, Peterson, a professor emeritus with the University of Toronto Psychology Department, who is also an author and media commentator, was ordered by the College of Psychologists of Ontario to undergo a coaching program on professionalism in public statements. That followed numerous complaints to the governing body of Ontario psychologists, of which Peterson is a member, regarding his online commentary directed at politicians, a plus-size model, and a transgender actor, Elliot Page, among other issues. 3 Ontario Divisional Court judges unanimously dismissed Peterson's application, ruling that the college's decision falls within its mandate to regulate the profession in the public interest and does not affect his freedom of expression. The order is not disciplinary and does not prevent Dr. Peterson from expressing himself on controversial topics. It has a minimal impact on his right to freedom of expression. The decision, written by Justice Paul Shabazz, reads, I hope I got that name right, I do apologize. Peterson, however, said his statements were not made in his capacity as a clinical psychologist, but instead were off-duty opinions, an argument the court rejected. Dr. Peterson sees himself functioning as a clinical psychologist in the broad public space where he claims to be helping millions of people. Peterson cannot have it both ways. He cannot speak as a member of a regulated profession without taking responsibility for the risk of harm that flows from him speaking in that trusted capacity. So to me, and I don't know how you guys feel, but those statements are all too confusing because on one hand they're saying, well, this isn't going against his right of freedom of expression, it's very minimal, yet on the other they're saying, well, he can't actually express those controversial opinions and not take accountability for the harm they may cause. So in my mind, and this goes hand in hand with the social media training, because he wouldn't be in this position otherwise, they would rather him not talk about the topics he is talking about. They'd rather him talk about something else. So to me, that does sound like somebody's freedom of speech is being taken away from them. But regardless of how people feel towards Jordan Peterson, whether they like him, whether they dislike him, I think the question we all have to ask here is, how did the world get so soft? This is what happens when you wrap everybody up in cotton wool. If somebody's opinion is affecting somebody that much that you want them silenced, I think that says more about the individual who feels impacted by that person's opinion. These people who want to actively silence Jordan Peterson should be doing some self-reflection. You know, why am I getting so emotional over these opinions? Why is it affecting me so much? Why do I want this man silenced? They won't do that self-reflection because, as we all know, as soon as somebody expresses a different opinion, no. They must be silenced. They're the ones in the wrong. It's affecting my feelings. It's just how it goes. And what gets me is these people who are against Jordan Peterson, who want to actively silence the man, they always disguise themselves, it doesn't matter who it is, they always disguise themselves under the veil of standing up for truth and standing up for people's rights, yet they're constantly taking away. It's interesting, isn't it? And it's always one side of the political spectrum who experiences this sort of persecution. It's never somebody from the left, right? You never hear of them going through social media re-education and, they should learn about their controversial posts they put online. They never get cancelled either. So it's clear to see the left want everybody to conform to their worldviews and everybody must forcefully comply. It's clear as day. However, Jordan Peterson says he has zero regret. In an interview with CBC News, Peterson said he will take the training and broadcast it. I'll comply with their regulations, but I'm not going to do it in secret. And the reason I'm not going to do it in secret is because I don't believe I've done anything wrong. And yeah, what has he done wrong? Just express a different opinion? Am I alone in saying this? I don't even find Jordan Peterson that controversial. There's plenty of other figures online who I sit there and think, well, that's definitely worse than what Jordan Peterson's saying. I understand he's from Canada and we've got to take that into account, but is somebody expressing their opinion that much of an offence? And there's people who cheer for this sort of thing. Now, the Daily Wire have also responded to this court ruling in Ontario, Canada, because obviously, as we all know, Jordan Peterson is now part of the Daily Wire, and I just want to play a couple of minutes of their response just to show you how they feel about it, and their response won't surprise you too much. Take a watch.
Ontario is threatening to take away Jordan's psychology license. The Superior Court of Justice ordered Jordan to pay $25,000 to the College of Psychologists and upheld the order that he go through a so-called social media re-education program.
I pity the re-education program.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I will not tweet what you want me to tweet.
They've been making this mistake with Jordan from the very beginning. If they had just left him alone, he'd still be like teaching university classes.
Yeah, for people who, believe that the left in America does not want to actively shut down speech, they do. I mean, take a look at Canada. I mean, they want to destroy your life. They really, really do. I was explaining this to somebody, again, a friend of mine who's on the left, and I blew his mind when I explained to him that if it comes down to Trump versus Biden, I will vote for Trump, and it won't really take much to convince me of that, at all. And he asked why, and I said, because of this. Because you want to trans my kids, you want to, or at least you want to make it good and proper for the public schools to work to trans my kids. You will attempt to shut me down if I speak freely. And then they'll be like, no, that's not true at all. Well, yes, it is. Yes, it is. I mean, look what they're doing in Canada. Look what they're doing in the UK. The goal here has always been and will always be to make traditional living illegal and make personal sexuality public. That's like the only thing that matters to these folks. So in order apparently to be a licensed psychologist, you have to be fully insane in Canada. You have to actually parrot insanity back to people to be a licensed psychologist in Canada. Honestly, Jordan is going to make their lives so miserable.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
It'll be quite fun to watch. Jordan actually, I would love to sit in the room watching Jordan take social media re-education training. It would be one of the great experiences of my life. I would pay honest to God money to be available in that room. I would go get a Canadian bar license to go and be in that room while they try to teach Jordan the things he can and cannot say on Twitter.
I just cannot imagine. This is a man who, as psychology is facing this replication crisis, this whole crisis of identity for the entire field, this man has done more good from the field of psychology than anybody since at least Viktor Frankl and maybe just any psychologist ever. People come up to me with tears in their eyes. I'm not exaggerating. And they will say, Michael, Jordan Peterson, the man changed my life. And grown men, serious men. And I think that's the guy that Castro's son goes after?
That's why.
That's why.
Because he's changed their life for the better, and he's made them feel better about being men, and he's made them understand what it means to be a man, and he speaks. The funny thing about Jordan, too, is because he can have a harsh, affect on Twitter where he gets so angry at these people because they pick on people who are smaller than them. He hates bullies. But he's the most gracious, kindly person that you could possibly meet. And he genuinely cares about the people who are being stomped on, and that's why they're stomping on him.
I think what you said is really important, because to me, that's the even more dire implication of stories like this. There's the free speech angle, really important, but the fact that this is what the psychology industry has become is people need to understand that. I mean, this is why I'm so skeptical and critical of it fundamentally.
Totally.
And I would before I would advise any loved one to go see a psychologist, I would be very, very careful, because the entire industry has been totally ideologically captured.
It is a very concerning time for society, right? I think we all understand that. And the point they make on top of the one about psychology being overtaken by woke ideology, as Matt Walsh says, the point they make about Jordan Peterson being targeted and disliked because he's helped millions of people is completely correct, because these groups of people who want to actively silence Jordan Peterson, they're miserable, and misery loves company. To see others bettering themselves fills them with so much hate and anger and jealousy, they despise it. They don't want anybody becoming a better version of themselves, and they seek to bring everybody else down. Especially when it comes to men bettering themselves, there are people out there who hate it so much. It's like a punch in the gut, because it points out their failures in life. And when you have somebody like Jordan Peterson who can articulate themselves better than 99.9% of people, I could only dream of talking like Jordan Peterson, and he's managed to captivate millions of men and women into bettering themselves. Somebody like that is not going to be liked by a lot of people. And as I've said, they don't want people becoming better. They don't want people being happy. They want people being alone, depressed, miserable. And when you have somebody like Jordan Peterson who is pulling people out of those holes, of course they're going to want to drag everybody else back down. It's a threat to their lifestyle as well, because when they look around and they see everybody else bettering themselves because of one individual and people becoming happy, of course it's going to make them feel a lot of negative feelings, and they'll seek to bring that person and the individual down as far as they can. But that is my thoughts on this whole situation, ladies and gentlemen. Leave your thoughts down below on Jordan Peterson and the court ruling as a whole. Are you a fan of Jordan Peterson? I would love to know. If you have enjoyed today, then please, for me, make sure to leave a like rating. If you're new, hit that subscribe button and turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video. But until next time, it has been your boy JD. Have a great day, stay safe, and I'm out. Peace.